We all know what it means to train the body. You lift, you sweat, you repeat. You push through discomfort to build strength, and slowly you grow. Not just in muscle, but in discipline. But what about the mind? Why do we treat it like it should already be strong, without practice, without pressure, without pain? The Stoics didn't make that mistake. They believed that the mind, like the body, must be trained every single day, not through theory, but through effort, through struggle, through reflection. They understood that the way you think determines the way you live, and if you don't shape your thoughts will shape you. Imagine your mind as a muscle. Left untrained, it weakens. It reacts instead of responds. It collapses under pressure. But when trained, intentionally, consistently, it becomes unshakable. It becomes a source of power that nothing external can steal. This episode isn't just about mental toughness. It's about mental discipline, about how to build clarity, calm, and confidence, not by waiting for peace, but by preparing for war, not by avoiding discomfort, but by stepping into it with wisdom and control. So if you're ready to start training the most important part of yourself, not your body, but your mind, then this episode is for you. Let's begin the workout. 1. Mental fitness is built through repetition. No one becomes physically strong by lifting a weight once, nor do they become fast by running a single lap. Strength is not an event, it's a habit. It's built in the moments no one sees, when you train, not because it feels good, but because it shapes who you are. Now shift that thinking inward. What if you treated your mind the same way? What if emotional strength, clarity, focus, and peace weren't things you hoped for, but things you trained for? The Stoics understood this better than most. They didn't believe the mind simply grows wiser with age or experience. They knew it had to be trained with the same consistency and structure we give to the body. Marcus Aurelius didn't write in his journal once and call it enlightenment. He repeated the same truths about control, patience, mortality, not because he forgot, but because he understood. Repetition is mastery. You don't internalize wisdom by reading it once. You internalize it by returning to it again and again until it lives inside you, not as a quote, but as a reflex. Think about this. How many times do you rehearse negative thoughts without even noticing? Worry, self-doubt, anger, they don't show up by accident. They show up because in some form you've been practicing them. Every time you choose fear over faith, reaction over reflection, you strengthen that mental pattern. You repeat it. You automate it. The brain is always learning. It just depends what you're teaching it. Mental fitness begins when you make that process conscious, when you train awareness like a muscle. You don't wait to be calm. You practice calm. You don't wait to be confident. You build confidence by consistently challenging your thoughts, refining your habits, and aligning your actions with your principles. The power of repetition is that it doesn't just help you learn new thoughts. It rewires the default ones. The more you repeat patience when you're frustrated, the more natural it becomes. The more you return to gratitude in moments of scarcity, the more it transforms from concept to character. Every repetition is a vote for who you are becoming. And yes, it's slow. It's not glamorous. There's no applause, no certificate. Just you, showing up every day, doing mental reps when the world tempts you to check out. But over time, those silent sessions build something extraordinary. A mind that doesn't break under pressure. A mindset that bends reality toward resilience, not reaction. And the truth is, most people never commit to this. They expect clarity without questioning their thoughts. They want peace without confronting their chaos. They seek strength but avoid repetition. They confuse inspiration with transformation. But Stoicism is not about reading a powerful quote. It's about living it again and again until it becomes your default response. So start small. Pick a thought you want to strengthen. Maybe it's patience, maybe it's courage, maybe it's the discipline to return to the present moment, and repeat it daily, when it's hard, when it's boring, when no one is watching, because that's how mental fitness is built, not in the big moments, but in the daily ones. 2. Challenge your thoughts like muscles. We often assume that our thoughts are facts, solid, immovable, absolute, but thoughts, like muscles, are shaped by pressure. And just like the body grows stronger under resistance, the mind grows sharper when we challenge what it believes. Most people never question their own thoughts. They feel something, assume it's true, and act accordingly. But a Stoic does the opposite. A Stoic watches his thoughts like a trainer watches form, closely, critically, and with the intention to correct. Every emotion begins with a thought. Every decision is built on a belief. But how often do you test those beliefs? How often do you stop and ask, is this thought useful? Is it true? Or is it simply familiar? This is where mental strength begins, not in controlling the outside world, but in challenging the narratives you carry inside your mind. Imagine if you walked into a gym, picked up a dumbbell once and said, "That's enough. I'm strong now." Ridiculous, right? Yet this is exactly how we treat our inner world. We expect deep change from shallow reflection. We think reading a truth once is enough to live by it forever. But the mind doesn't work that way. Like the body, it adapts only under stress. And the stress it needs isn't suffering, it's self-inquiry. It's the resistance of confronting yourself honestly. The Stoics trained their minds not by avoiding discomfort, but by leaning into it. Epictetus taught that we must test our impressions, question what we see, feel, and hear before accepting them. That's the mental workout. Not pushing through blindly, but observing, pausing, examining. Because when you pause between a thought and a reaction, you create space. And in that space, you gain power. This process isn't easy. You'll find that many of your thoughts are based on fear, ego, or assumption. You might discover that the way you talk to yourself is harsher than how you'd speak to anyone else. But that discovery, that tension, is necessary. That's the weight you must lift. It's the moment where the mind resists, and in doing so, reveals its weakness and its potential. Training your mind means lifting those hidden beliefs into the light and examining them without judgment. Maybe you believe you're not good enough, that you can't change, that your past defines your future. Are those thoughts true, or are they just repeated? Have you tested them, or have you accepted them because they're familiar? The brain is lazy. It prefers efficiency over accuracy. It will run old patterns simply because they're easy. But ease is not your ally. Truth is, and truth takes effort to uncover. That's why you must challenge your thoughts daily, just like you would train a muscle group. Target the weak spots. Apply pressure. Rest, reflect, repeat. And over time, something happens. You begin to think more clearly. You react more slowly. You choose with intention. You no longer believe every fear, feed every doubt, or follow every urge. You've trained your mind to observe instead of obey. And that, more than any technique or affirmation, is the essence of mental mastery. So the next time a thought arises that stirs your emotion or tempts you to spiral, stop, pause. Don't attack it. Don't suppress it. Challenge it. Ask if it serves you. Ask if it's true. Ask if it aligns with who you want to become. That's how you grow stronger, one rep at a time, one thought at a time. 3. Discipline sharpens cognition. Most people assume discipline is about restriction, about forcing yourself to do things you hate. But true discipline, the kind the Stoics practiced, is not about punishment, it's about precision. It's the mental sharpening of how you think, act, and choose. Discipline isn't chains around your freedom. It's the blade that carves away distraction, weakness, and confusion. It's what gives your mind clarity in a world designed to blur it. Think about it. When you live without discipline, your attention is scattered. You drift. You react to every notification, every opinion, every craving. And when the mind is constantly reacting, it's not thinking. It's not perceiving. It's not leading. It's being led. That's why Stoic discipline isn't just about behavior. It's about cognition. The sharper your discipline, the clearer your thoughts. And the clearer your thoughts, the wiser your life becomes. Cognition is your mental clarity. It's your ability to perceive reality as it is, not as your emotions or distractions distort it. But clarity doesn't happen by chance. It comes from mental order. And mental order requires discipline. The discipline to sit in silence when the world screams for noise. The discipline to ask why before you say yes. The discipline to say no, even when everything in you wants comfort, ease, escape. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That power is only activated through discipline, not willpower once in a while, but consistent, repeated, structured effort. The same way a sharpened knife must be honed repeatedly, your mind needs repeated boundaries, repeated stillness, repeated introspection to stay clear. Modern science confirms what the Stoics practiced. Mental discipline improves focus, decision-making, emotional regulation, and even creativity. When your thoughts aren't hijacked by impulse, you think better, you choose better, you live better. But that doesn't happen by accident. It happens through practices that might seem small, even dull. Waking up at a set time, journaling your thoughts, reflecting before reacting, holding yourself accountable even when no one's watching. Discipline is the bridge between chaos and clarity. Without it, your cognition becomes clouded. You forget what matters. You believe every thought that appears. You make decisions from a place of urgency instead of wisdom. But with discipline, you slow down. You observe. You choose with awareness, not emotion. And that's where real cognition lives. Not in speed, but in stillness. But here's the catch. Most people fear discipline because it requires responsibility. It's easier to blame distraction, to chase stimulation, to drown in consumption. But the Stoic sees through that. He knows that every small act of discipline, delaying gratification, controlling speech, sitting with discomfort, is a sharpening stone for the mind. And over time, those micro-decisions accumulate into something powerful, a mind that doesn't panic, a mind that doesn't wander, a mind that sees things as they are. You want to think better. Don't wait for inspiration. Build discipline, make space, remove noise, choose structure, not rigidity, but rhythm, not control, but intention. Because in that space between impulse and action is where the Stoic lives, where thought becomes tool, where attention becomes weapon, and where cognition is no longer something you rely on, it's something you command. 4. Resilience comes from mental exposure. Resilience isn't something you're born with, it's something you build, and like anything built, it requires exposure. Exposure to discomfort, to challenge, to moments where your mind wants to flee, but you decide to stay. Just as the immune system strengthens when it's exposed to small threats, your inner strength grows when you allow your mind to experience stress, pain, and uncertainty, consciously, deliberately, and without retreat. Most people misunderstand resilience. They think it's about being unaffected, untouchable, but real resilience isn't about being untouched. It's about being tested and choosing to keep going. It's the capacity to feel the fear, the doubt, the discomfort, and stay grounded anyway. And that capacity is trained, not gifted. It's trained through repeated exposure to the very things you'd rather avoid. The Stoics knew this deeply. Seneca practiced poverty so he wouldn't fear it. Epictetus, born a slave and crippled by abuse, used hardship not as a reason to complain, but as a gym for the soul. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that he would face selfish, irrational people, not to grow bitter, but to grow prepared. They exposed their minds again and again to what life could throw at them, so that when it did, they didn't flinch. They were ready, because they had trained. Ask yourself, when was the last time you allowed yourself to feel discomfort without distraction, without numbing, without escape? When did you last sit in silence with your pain, instead of reaching for your phone, food, or another voice to fill the void? That space, where your mind is exposed to difficulty without the usual escape, is where resilience begins. You see, your brain doesn't grow stronger by avoiding stress. It grows by managing it. Exposure, followed by reflection, is how you build mental armor. Not walls to keep life out, but tools to meet life with calm. And every time you choose to face discomfort intentionally, whether through cold, silence, solitude, challenge, or fear, you teach your nervous system a new truth. This won't break me. Modern psychology calls this process stress inoculation. The Stoics called it preparation. You can call it life training. It's what happens when you deliberately put yourself in controlled difficulty, so that uncontrolled chaos doesn't crush you later. When you read hard things, when you do hard things, when you think hard thoughts, not to punish yourself, but to expand your capacity, because the mind, like the body, adapts to what it repeatedly faces. And the result? You stop overreacting to minor inconveniences. You stop being ruled by panic or impulse. You stop seeing challenge as a threat and start seeing it as practice. You gain space between stimulus and response. You become the kind of person who can hold pressure without collapsing. That's not because you were lucky. It's because you exposed your mind over and over to life's weight until it grew stronger. So don't run from the tension. Sit with it. Walk toward the challenge. Don't drown in chaos, but don't avoid it either. Use it. Let it become your gym. Let it test you so you can learn how to endure, not with clenched fists, but with quiet awareness. Not with the illusion of control, but with the calm of preparation. That's how resilience is built, not in ease, but in exposure. 5. Your beliefs shape your outcomes. Every action you take, every word you speak, every decision you make, whether bold or timid, wise or reckless, can be traced back to one silent force: belief. Not belief in the spiritual sense, but belief in the assumptions you carry about yourself, others, and the world. These beliefs form the invisible architecture of your life. They are the lens through which you see, and the compass that directs your choices, even when you're unaware of it. You may believe you're capable or unworthy, that people are trustworthy or dangerous, that life is opportunity or threat. These beliefs, often formed years ago, become so automatic, so ingrained, that you no longer see them as beliefs. You see them as reality. But here's the truth: they are not reality. They are filters. and unless you examine them, they will quietly dictate the trajectory of your life. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus said, "It's not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them." That statement is more than philosophy, it's psychology. The same setback can destroy one person and strengthen another, not because of what happened, but because of what they believe it means. One person loses their job and believes they're a failure. Another sees the same loss as a chance to build something better. The difference isn't in circumstance, it's in belief. So ask yourself, what beliefs are you carrying right now? Are they lifting you or limiting you? Do you believe that growth is possible, or that you're stuck with who you've always been? Do you believe discomfort is a threat or a teacher? Do you believe people owe you, or that you're here to serve something greater? These quiet convictions shape your energy, your perception, and ultimately, your reality. And here's the most dangerous part. We don't just act on our beliefs. We go looking for evidence to prove them right. If you believe people are cruel, you'll notice every insult. If you believe you're not good enough, you'll filter out every compliment and highlight every failure. The mind becomes biased toward confirming what it already believes. This is why unexamined beliefs are traps. They don't just affect your view, they create your view. But you are not stuck with the beliefs you inherited. You can change them, and the first step is awareness. Start noticing the thoughts that drive your emotions. Behind every anxiety is a belief. Behind every angry outburst is a judgment. Trace them, question them. Don't just ask, "What am I feeling?" Ask, "What do I believe that's making me feel this way?" Maybe you believe that being rejected means you're worthless, that making a mistake means you're broken, that asking for help means you're weak. But what if those beliefs are wrong? What if they've always been wrong, but you never paused long enough to challenge them? Changing your beliefs doesn't mean reciting affirmations. It means slowly, intentionally replacing the automatic stories with conscious truth. It means living in a way that aligns with better beliefs, day by day, action by action, until they become your new default. Until you no longer need to convince yourself, you simply are the person who believes differently. And once your beliefs shift, so does your world. You begin to see opportunity where you once saw threat. You see progress where you once saw failure. You see yourself not as a victim of your past, but as a creator of your future. That's not delusion, that's clarity. And it starts with one bold question: what do I believe? And is it serving me or sabotaging me? 6. Feed your mind like your body, wisely. If someone ate nothing but processed junk every day, we wouldn't be surprised when their body breaks down. We know that physical health is tied to what we consume, but what about mental health? What about the clarity of your thinking, the stability of your emotions, and the strength of your decisions? All of these are fed or poisoned by what you consume with your mind. Your attention is your mental diet, and most people are malnourished without even realizing it. You see, we live in a world where your mind is constantly being offered food, but not the kind that strengthens you. It's noise, outrage, gossip, comparison, endless content designed not to inform, but to stimulate. And, like sugar, it feels good in the moment, but drains you in the long run. You might scroll past 1,000 opinions in 1 hour, and then wonder why you feel anxious, distracted, or exhausted. But the reason is simple. Your mental fuel is low quality. The Stoics were aware of this long before the age of algorithms. They understood that a wise mind must be intentionally fed, not just with ideas, but with the right ideas, ones rooted in clarity, virtue, and reality. Marcus Aurelius, one of the busiest men in history, still found time every day to sit and write, to feed his mind with reflection and truth. He didn't consume noise. He created silence. He didn't chase stimulation. He returned to principle. So ask yourself honestly, what are you feeding your mind? When you wake up, do you nourish your thoughts with reflection, silence, or reading? Or do you immediately reach for your phone and consume someone else's chaos? When you're tired or bored, do you replenish your energy with stillness? Or do you distract yourself with more consumption? These small choices are not harmless. They're shaping your mental state day by day. Feeding your mind wisely means curating your input. It means choosing what deserves your attention. It means reading things that challenge you to think, not just entertain you. It means listening to voices that elevate your principles, not reinforce your fears. It means limiting your exposure to negativity, not by ignoring the world, but by refusing to be soaked in its worst aspects. And just like with the body, you need balance. You don't have to consume philosophy all day long, but you do need awareness. If you constantly feel drained, overwhelmed, reactive, it's a sign your mental intake is cluttered. The solution isn't to consume more, it's to consume better. Fewer headlines, more timeless ideas. Less comparison, more reflection. Less noise, more truth. This doesn't mean becoming rigid. It means becoming intentional. The same way a healthy person enjoys food but doesn't binge junk, a wise person enjoys content but doesn't binge chaos. You choose what strengthens you. You taste the idea, you chew it, you digest it, and then you apply it. That's how knowledge becomes wisdom. You are not passive in this. You are not a victim of information overload. You are the gatekeeper of your mental world. You decide what comes in. And over time, those decisions shape your identity, your resilience, and your ability to live with clarity in a world that thrives on distraction. So today, choose better input. Feed your mind the way you'd feed a warrior before battle, with care, with precision, and with purpose. Because the thoughts you consume will soon become the beliefs you carry, and those beliefs will determine the life you live. 7. Meditation is weightlifting for awareness. When most people hear the word meditation, they think of calm, of peace, of monks sitting cross-legged in some quiet temple. But the Stoic doesn't meditate to escape life. He meditates to face it with clarity. For the Stoic, meditation is not about becoming empty. It's about becoming aware of your thoughts, your judgments, your impulses, aware of the gap between reaction and response. Meditation is not just spiritual, it's strategic. It's weightlifting for awareness. And like any training, its value comes not from how it feels, but from what it builds. You don't meditate because life is calm. You meditate so that when life becomes chaos, you aren't. You train your awareness so that when emotions rise, you don't drown in them. So that when distractions pull at you, you can return to center. So that when the world demands you react, you still have the power to pause. In a society that glorifies speed, noise, and constant stimulation, awareness is rebellion, and meditation is how you sharpen that edge. Think of your awareness like a muscle. Left unused, it atrophies. Your mind becomes scattered. You drift through your day unaware of how your mood shifted, how your words landed, how your values slipped. You're alive, but not awake. But with regular practice, that awareness strengthens. You begin to notice. The space between stimulus and response widens. You stop living on autopilot. You become present. And in that presence lies your power. Marcus Aurelius didn't call it meditation, but every morning, he wrote, he examined his thoughts. He anticipated the challenges of the day. He returned to reason before emotion had a chance to hijack him. That was his version of mental weightlifting. The point wasn't to feel good. The point was to see clearly, to remind himself of who he wanted to be before the world tempted him to forget. Modern science supports what the Stoics practiced. Meditation strengthens the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for awareness, decision-making, and self-control. It literally trains you to think clearly under stress, to hold perspective under pressure, to notice when your mind begins to wander into rumination, distraction, or reactivity, and gently bring it back. But like physical training, this isn't glamorous. You sit, you breathe, you watch your thoughts, you fail, you return, and in that repetition, your awareness grows stronger. Not all at once, but gradually, quietly, like a fire kindling in the dark. And one day, in a moment of crisis or conflict, you'll notice something different. You're not reacting like you used to. You're not overwhelmed. You're steady. That's not magic. That's mental strength, built one breath at a time. And the truth is, you're meditating all the time. You just don't realize it. Every time you dwell on worry, you're meditating on fear. Every time you replay an insult, you're meditating on anger. Every time you scroll for hours, you're meditating on distraction. So the question is not whether you meditate, but what you're meditating on. Stoicism invites you to choose, to bring intention to your attention, to sit, observe, and remember, I am not my thoughts. I am the one watching them. Meditation won't erase your problems, but it will train your awareness to meet them with clarity, and clarity, more than calm, is what the Stoic values most, because from clarity comes choice, and from choice comes freedom. 8. Neglecting thought is self-sabotage. Most people don't realize it, but the greatest threat to their progress isn't failure. It's mental neglect. It's going through life without examining what they think, why they think it, and how those thoughts shape their actions. When you stop reflecting, you stop evolving. And when you neglect thought, you become a stranger to yourself. You lose clarity. You drift. And slowly, often without noticing, you start to sabotage your own growth. Neglecting thought isn't just a passive mistake. It's a dangerous pattern. You avoid hard questions. You run from discomfort. You let your emotions run the show without asking where they come from or whether they're justified. And you begin to live reactively, ruled by impulse, by habit, by what the world throws at you. The Stoics saw this as one of the greatest threats to the soul, living without reason, without conscious reflection. Epictetus taught that our true power lies in how we use our thoughts, not what happens to us, but what we think about what happens to us. That distinction is everything, because when you lose that power, when you stop pausing, questioning, analyzing, you give it away. You let the world program you. You become a product of your environment instead of a creator of your life. Think about this. If someone were to neglect their body, no sleep, no nutrition, no movement, we'd expect their health to collapse. But when someone neglects their thinking, the collapse is more subtle. They become irritable, anxious, confused. They make the same mistakes over and over again. They lash out and regret it. They chase things they don't actually value, and then they wonder why nothing feels right. This is self-sabotage in slow motion. You can't make wise decisions if you never stop to examine the thoughts behind them. You can't grow if you never reflect on where you're stuck. And you can't master your life if you're not even paying attention to the one thing that shapes it all, your mind. So how do you stop the sabotage? You return to thought, not obsessive overthinking, but deliberate reflection. You carve out time to examine your day. You ask better questions. Why did I react that way? What belief drove that decision? Is this desire truly mine, or one I've absorbed without question? This isn't about judgment. It's about clarity. It's about reclaiming ownership of your mind. Even 5 minutes a day can change everything. 5 minutes of real, honest thinking. No noise, no distraction. Just you, your thoughts, and a willingness to face them. Journaling, walking in silence, sitting with discomfort instead of escaping it. These are not luxuries. They are necessities, because without them, you become blind to your patterns. And what you don't see, you can't change. Neglecting thought is like handing your life over to chaos and hoping for the best. But the Stoic doesn't hope blindly. He prepares, he thinks, he sharpens his mind the way a warrior sharpens a blade. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. And here's the truth. Every single day, life gives you input, experiences, emotions, conversations. If you don't pause to process them, they pile up. They confuse you. They weigh you down. But if you pause, if you think, if you reflect, you extract wisdom. You learn. You refine. You grow. So don't skip the thinking. Don't call it a waste of time. It's not. It's the foundation of every wise choice you'll ever make. It's how you stop drifting and start directing. It's how you stop reacting and start responding. And it's how you stop sabotaging your future by finally choosing to examine your present. 9. Inner mastery requires regular practice. People admire inner strength when they see it. A calm presence in chaos, the ability to stay grounded under pressure, the grace to respond rather than react. But what they often forget is that this kind of mastery doesn't appear overnight. It isn't a gift, it's a discipline, a daily one. Inner mastery is not a switch you flip when things get hard. It's a muscle you train when things feel ordinary. And if you neglect that training, don't be surprised when life tests you and you collapse. There's a dangerous illusion that wisdom and emotional control are traits you either have or don't. But the Stoics knew better. Marcus Aurelius wrote about reminding himself daily to expect conflict. Epictetus taught that every moment was a chance to practice. Seneca said we should rehearse adversity in our minds before it arrives. They all understood this one truth. To master yourself, you must train yourself. Not once, not sometimes, but consistently. You don't get strong by lifting a weight once. You get strong by lifting often, especially when it's hard. The same applies to your mind. Every moment of irritation is a chance to strengthen your patience. Every setback is a chance to build resilience. Every temptation is an invitation to sharpen your discipline. These moments aren't obstacles to your growth. They are the training ground. But most people want results without repetition. They want peace without reflection. They want confidence without challenge. They want to feel calm without building the habits that create calm. And when life gets difficult, they crumble. Not because they're weak, but because they never practiced. You cannot become composed under pressure if you don't practice presence under ease. You can't expect to stay disciplined when chaos hits if you haven't practiced discipline when things are quiet. The truth is, how you live on an average day is your training. Your patterns, your habits, your attention, they're all shaping your response to life, whether you know it or not. So, what does this practice look like? It's not dramatic. It's in the decision to pause before reacting. It's in the choice to reflect instead of blame. It's in the moments you speak less and observe more. It's when you turn down the volume of your ego and turn up the awareness of your values. That's where mastery is forged, not in grand gestures, but in small, repeated actions that align with who you want to become. And it's not about perfection, it's about showing up every single day, especially when you don't feel like it, especially when it's uncomfortable, because that's when growth happens, not when it's easy, but when it requires something from you. When you push through the resistance, you're not just surviving, you're evolving. Inner mastery is a path, not a peak. There's no finish line where you declare yourself fully in control. There's only the daily practice, the daily return, the daily decision to choose clarity over chaos, discipline over impulse, reflection over reaction, and over time, those choices build something strong, quiet, unshakable. That's what makes the Stoic powerful, not his knowledge, but his practice. So if you want to master your inner world, don't wait for the perfect moment. Start today, start now. Pick one habit, one thought, one moment, and treat it like training. Because the more you practice, the less the world controls you, and the more you become exactly what you were meant to be, grounded, intentional, and truly free. 10. Flex your focus daily. In a world built to steal your attention, focus is more than a tool. It's a form of power. The ability to choose what you give your mind to hold it there, and to direct it with intention is a superpower in the age of distraction. But just like a muscle, focus weakens when left unused. And if you don't train it, daily, deliberately, it will be trained for you. Not by wisdom, but by noise. Scroll long enough, and your brain begins to crave fragments, notifications, highlights, quick dopamine hits, and slowly you lose your tolerance for depth. You read less, reflect less, you become restless in silence. You start 10 things and finish none. That's not a time management problem, it's an attention problem. And the Stoic understood this centuries ago. You become what you give your attention to, warned Epictetus, and what you feed grows. Flexing your focus means reclaiming the steering wheel of your mind. It means deciding, not just reacting, and that begins with awareness. Ask yourself, what consumes you each day? Where does your focus go when you're not watching? To anger, envy, gossip, or growth, purpose, and clarity? Because whatever you focus on, you feed, and whatever you feed becomes stronger. Daily focus training isn't about rigid productivity, it's about direction. You don't need to be a machine, you just need to know what matters and protect it. Even 10 undistracted minutes on a meaningful task is more valuable than 2 hours of scattered effort. Quality over quantity, depth over noise. Start small, choose one task, turn off distractions, set a timer, breathe, begin. Your mind will rebel. That's the point. Like lifting a heavy weight, it will shake at first, but with every rep, it gets easier. You learn to resist the urge to escape discomfort. You learn to stay with what matters. And slowly, you build endurance, not just for focus, but for life itself. And here's what most people miss. Focus is emotional, not just cognitive. You can't concentrate deeply if your mind is full of regret, resentment, or anxiety. So part of training your focus is clearing the clutter. That's where Stoic reflection becomes essential. Journaling, silence, asking, what am I holding on to that drains me? What thoughts take up space without giving me strength? You can't build a cathedral on a shaky foundation. Likewise, you can't build a focused mind on emotional chaos. Flexing your focus means choosing peace over noise, internally and externally. It means guarding your attention like something sacred, because it is. The more you train, the more you notice. You catch yourself drifting, and you return. You spot the mental traps before you fall in. You stop mistaking busyness for purpose, and your life, once scattered, becomes aligned, not because the world changed, but because your focus did. And here's the deeper truth. Your future depends on where you place your attention today. Dreams don't die from failure. They die from neglect, from letting your focus leak into things that don't matter, until you wake up one day, scattered, exhausted, and unfulfilled. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can choose differently. You can train. You can return. You can build a mind that isn't pulled by every current, but guided by one compass. So flex your focus today on your breath, on your craft, on a single undistracted conversation. That's how you reclaim your mind, not all at once, but moment by moment. And from that focus, every great thing begins. Solitude, clarity, repetition, stillness, awareness. Every point we've explored today has been a different doorway to the same place, the inner world, a place most people never truly visit, let alone train. They look outward for validation, noise, achievement, and they miss the most powerful domain of all, the mind. But the Stoic knows, if you master what's within, nothing outside can master you. That's not a slogan, that's a discipline, that's a way of life. We don't do this work, this practice of reflection, stillness, meditation, focus, because it's easy. We do it because life isn't, because challenges will come, people will misunderstand you, plans will fall apart. But your mind, you're in a fortress. That can stay unshaken if you've built it brick by brick, day after day, with deliberate effort. Maybe today your focus was weak. Maybe your thoughts were scattered. Maybe your discipline slipped. That's okay. What matters isn't that you fell, it's that you return. The Stoic returns. Every day, not to prove anything to the world, but to refine the self. Quietly, patiently, consistently. So here's the real question. Will you just admire the idea of mental strength, or will you train it? Will you listen to these words and move on, or will you live them through repetition, reflection, and practice? You already have everything you need. The mind is yours. The time is now. And the path begins where excuses end. Train your mind. Sharpen your focus. Choose your thoughts. And watch how the world outside begins to reflect the power you've built within. And if this episode helped you realign with that path, even just a little, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Save it. Come back to it. Because like all great training, this is not a one-time lesson. It's a lifetime practice. Until next time, stay focused, stay grounded, and above all, stay in command of your mind.